This
aligned with you on
conference
that,
will now
Kevin.
be recorded.
And the other thing I would add as a benefit to the overall process is that if we work with the memory vendors and CPU vendors to make sure we're collecting all the data we want to, just like Tony put in the document last week, thank you, Tony, then what we do is we standardize what we're gathering. And so all of us who sell products that use these parts will gather at least the amount of data that we've recommended here for this analysis. And that will vastly help the memory vendors and CPU vendors understand what's going on with their parts in the field and improve detection. It'll also help them improve quality. And we found giving memory vendors data like this allows them to find failure modes that are hard to find any other way because they just don't have enough memory to find it. And Tony, I think that's our experience with you and the folks at SK. We really value sharing data with you and getting your help making things better.
Likewise.
If we could do that across the industry, I think that would be amazing. Like, I want to benefit from Dell's experience, and I'm fine if Dell benefits from mine. We just want better memory.
I'm more than willing to take you up on that offer, Drew.
Sounds good. So we can talk about that as the kind of the benefits that flow out of it. So I like that. So I will make sure and what we'll do is throw it together. It has to be kind of fast because it's due. It's kind of past due, and we're a little slow for things to be internally reviewed. But I'll try to crank something out with Tony or whoever. I mean, I guess what I'd love is the memory vendors to drive a lot of this. But in absence of that, I'll get something. But it'd be better if you all help. So is that syncing with what you were thinking, Yogesh?
Absolutely. So that's right along the lines of what I was thinking about. So we have roughly about 20 some minutes, and if we can highlight, if each of us can highlight one of the burning problems such as this one, which needs a collaborative effort and kind of a OCP or industry-wide acceptance of a common practice there, that would be victory in my opinion. So maybe we need to identify like maybe 3 topics, and Drew, in the interest of time, I'll let you present the high level of the group, and then we can have all 3 DRAM vendors talk about. So you speak for CSPs, and Silicon folks will just take the back seat. Carlos, I hope you're okay with that. and then Tony, Paul, and maybe Jordan or someone from Samsung, if they're joining, can present. Hey, we know this problem exists, and we kind of we'll work through that. But I think by next week we should have like a rough framework draft that, hey, this is how we plan to present.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Does everyone agree with that? Any differing opinions? Let's give folks. I don't see anyone from. Sorry. I take it back. Yeah. So YJ, you said something, but unfortunately, I cannot read that language. I do not even know. I think it's, I don't know. It's, yeah. What did you want to say, YJ? Could you maybe speak up or translate for us?
Okay.
Yeah.
In the absence of the lawyer, yes. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with the Drew's ideas, and we agreed. If we have to collaborate with the CSP vendor, the SOC vendor, and the DRAMs, the fault analyzer, then could be really helpful to prevent the system crash rate. reduce the system crash rate. Yes, so I absolutely agree with your ideas.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think it sounded like YJ was driving, so I don't speak Korean either, but I did Google Translate. So,
Yeah, I thought about
so if that's the case, YJ, I thank you for speaking up, and yeah, we'll accommodate you while you're driving. And I apologize if I misunderstood. I don't speak Korean either.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, because I just sent about the uh the text message to my colleague. Yeah, so
Oh,
sorry.
got it. No
Yeah.
worries. We just want to make sure we hear you. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, Yogesh, I think we've got a plan. I'm excited about it. Maybe what I'll do is rough out the proposal, and Antonio started a blank deck for me. I'll put the agenda in that I think we described today, and then
yeah.
like send it out to the group and get people to edit it. Does that sound good?
I kind of already started on what Antonio sent out. So I was wondering, where are we sharing files? Are we sharing on your drive or OCP's drive? I wasn't sure.
Well, I
Do you
think we
have a
should
folder?
share an OCP's drive ideally because it's an OCP pipeline, but I can do whatever.
Yeah, so let me just put this what I already started there, and then I'll share link to everyone. Would that work?
Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Yogesh. I didn't mean to step on your toes. I just was
No,
volunteering to
not
get
at all.
something.
It's just that we chatted yesterday, and I thought it would be good to have. I was just trying to really figure out how we'll structure it. Uh, it's
Sounds good.
yeah, because I do want to folks to go with a good impression and conviction that yes, this is needed, and also that's a kind of a recruitment opportunity for us. So one of the angles that we generally don't think about it is I'm not suggesting that has to be in this global summit, but the there's a sustainability angle to every RA section that's taken, right? Because it does reduce waste, to put it very roughly, right? So maybe that's something, Drew, maybe we can talk offline about how we can get some handle on. But yeah, like I said, I was just trying to figure out how we do this.
Yeah. I mean, we were supposed to have sustainability as part of every work stream, but I think reducing the number of replacements is pretty sustainable. It improves sustainability. So
Yeah, I mean,
we
not
can.
just parts and silicon. It's just I think there are studies about what's the cost of taking one machine offline to do a replacement, right? I
Yeah.
think an hour of downtime costs in I think it costs in millions and up to 3 million in some cases. So it's pretty expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's some studies on that ITRC or something. So that's the number I just quoted. I can
Okay.
share those. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, we know the next steps. I think by 25th we need to submit the draft. So we will be working mostly offline via emails because I think we meet bi-weekly. So okay.
And I guess what we may need to do is if we may need to meet off schedule,
Yeah, we
just
can do that.
the people working on the slides if needed, right?
Yeah, we would probably need to do that, but this is a draft stage, so it may not be as critical. But yes, we should definitely plan on meeting in between if we need to. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
I
So
have a question. When you go out and you make this proposal in terms of the scope that you're going to indicate of what types of memory are influenced by this change, are you planning to indicate predominantly DIMM module based memory, or are you going to, include CXL and and broadly stated that it's going to touch everything? Um, uh,
I
I can
think that,
see
that
from the
that's
block
another.
diagram there's some discussion of non-DIMM based devices, but like who is influenced by it is significantly diverts based on what types of memory are included.
Yeah. Well, and some CXL memory may be DIMM based too. At least my take is that let's figure out how to do it for DIMMs and the existing CPUs we've got, because those memory controllers are used widely. And then if it works great, I'm all for like crawl, walk, run. Get it working for the basic two socket systems, and then expand outwards if the memory vendors and silicon vendors are interested. The only catch with the CXL device is that it's a grab bag of memory controllers. So it's not clear who would write the memory controller part of the analyzer, because is it Synopsys or another IP company that sells memory controllers? Is it the integrator? So if we buy a CXL chip from AMD or Intel, would they do it? So I think I'm open to it, Kevin. I guess what I'm saying is I think if we can do the basics first and then build on that, that may be a good way to approach it. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah, absolutely agree with what you said. And that was another thing, Kevin. I was sorry, I jumped in because I was excited about it. But that was another thing I was thinking about. So I think totally 100% agree with Amdahl's law and Drew's opinion. Let's take the common case first, and then there are two aspects to it, right? One is if we are able to abstract the analysis down to the technology type, so we have a common analyzing method for DRAM devices, or we have a common ground for HBM devices, and then we can go analyze whether the unit itself is bad and what that translates to in terms of flow. So in some cases it might be silicon, CPU silicon, some cases it might be GPU. But if we can create analyzers or dictate framework for analyzers, hey, for this memory technology, this is what we need from the memory vendor to deterministically say, yes, this is a thing that you definitely need to replace or no need to replace. That would be a victory for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that totally makes sense. I was mostly asking the question in terms of the framing of the scope of what is the work group, task group focused on. If you stated as you have, I think that that's perfectly fine and appropriate. I just kind of prefetching that I anticipate, CXL, for example, gets a lot of discussion nowadays. So people will immediately ask the question, does this apply to CXL or not? If you have like a preliminary, like what you said, Drew, would be fine. Definitely there's going to be a lot more DIMM devices, just in terms of quantity, than of CXL devices for quite some time. So what you're talking about makes sense.
Okay.
And
Okay. Cool.
excellent point you brought up. I think we should touch upon the scope and continuum of, or progression, how we want to approach, and maybe we can have a bullet about that. That's an excellent point, Kevin.
Sounds good. Well, that was a great question, Kevin. Thank you. Okay. So I saw Tony made some progress with the document. Is that where we want to go next, Yogesh? Did you have something else in mind?
I didn't have anything else. I didn't get to see it on the update. So yeah, let's jump into it.
Sounds good. Tony, do you want to share or do you want me to share? How do you want to do this?
If you have it open, I don't at the moment.
Sure. I've got it handy. No problem. Whatever you want.
Yeah, that would probably be quickest. Sorry, Drew. Should have pulled it up
No, no
beforehand.
worries. I appreciate you doing the work. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. So uh, then I'm just gonna. We were like we were talking about work needed, and what are the error logging methods and error format, and what do we pass to the memory vendor analyzers? And so, Tony, I'm just going to walk through your comments. I
And I,
think you said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I guess I can talk to him really quick. But the logging unique addresses could be another way of going at this. Um, and totally agreed with what you pointed out there as well, Drew, is being sure to capture the count of any particular address would also be kind of necessary in that case. If there's, if folks are worried about the amount of space that it could take up to continuously log addresses over, an extended amount of time. Like,
And that's a good thing is we also need to talk about the sample rate.
right.
And like for me, it's impossible to log every single error because even if you take an interrupt for every error, you could have errors happen while you're logging the errors in the interrupt handler. And so, we're taking a sample, no matter what. It's just that some samples are more complete than others. And my assertion's historically been, I just need a representative sample. I don't need every error.
Yep.
But we need to discuss that. So I'll ask the question, and that may be something we need to debate. But I guess that would help too, right? Is we can pass last X addresses or count of errors, or we could determine that this is an acceptable sample rate.
Yeah, agree.
Cool. Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on this? I mean, we're going to have to come back to the sample rate, I think, because I really don't, I think we've resolved this either. What do we pass? Does anyone else? And I'm sorry, I want to scroll down just briefly. Sorry for the scrolling. Okay, so you have suggestions on what we're capturing, but not necessarily on like the characteristics of the sample that we pass to the memory vendor analyzer.
When you say that, Drew, are you thinking, or asking for exactly like the details of what's passed to the analyzer?
Well, I'm saying like you've got what's in the logs, but I guess what I'm asking is, what do we pass? How many logs do we pass? What are the, is it last X records, last X addresses, last X days of records? That's.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I chimed in on our recommendation. I mean, well, I'll just throw it out there. I think what we found is up to 90 days can be useful. Beyond that is diminishing returns.
Is that okay? But I'll just put that in the notes then.
Yep. And so it's really I guess that would be our recommendation.
Okay. And so okay, and I'm in a funny situation when people come log errors at Google. they start trying to figure out data flows and find a database big enough. And we always have to just get their attention and say, don't worry about the database. We don't care. It'll be fine. And so we don't care. It'll be fine. We'll figure out how to log all that we need to log. But I think that others may care more about this data size and how to limit it and how to manage what we pass to the analyzer.
Yeah, agreed.
So we'll have to think about it. 90 days is, I look at it and shrug and say, sure, we can do that. It's kind of like we have all the compute power and all the data storage we need. But what we'll have to do is, if there may be situations that are more constrained where we have to accommodate those constraints.
Yeah.
So, okay. Oh yeah. Thank you. That was a good addition, Yogesh. Okay, and I guess, does anyone else have any opinion on like 90 days? We have Samsung and SK Hynix. Are you all prepared to speak to this, or do you want to go think about it some?
Okay, yeah, I think we already mentioned about ours. The insisted. In our side is almost the logs as many as possible. Yeah, that is very could be helpful, but in our opinion is 1 week's worth, 1 month of the log is enough to analyze to finding some the errors. Yeah, find them some the code.
So and so did I write down what you said accurately?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Okay, and but you're okay with longer is what I also thought I heard you say.
yeah,
Is
right.
that
Yeah,
right?
as many as log is could could be very helpful for us. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So what about Samsung? Do you all have any opinions you're able to share today?
Yeah, as Hynix mentioned, we totally agree with Hynix. We think that longer is better, but a specific period, we are not sure yet, but longer is better.
Okay, not sure of kind of a minimum amount of time then, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and by the way, you all are welcome to edit this document. So if you don't have access, ask, and we'll try to share. And I'm trying to capture what you're saying correctly, but if I get it wrong and you just want to type your opinions right in, please do. Okay, so then I think that we can try to work with that, and I think we need to think about, like, I could say I just have a file of some sort where I'm always appending. I let the file get to a certain size or some sort of circular queue, and every time I put a new error in the queue, I go poke the analyzer and say, hey, I got some new data. Go see what you think. And so, we need to think about what that looks like. Okay. And then we need to think about representative samples. So I'm just going to put a request here. And that is memory vendors, please give us your thoughts. And if you all could we could do that. I'll even, what I'm going to do is I'll paste the link into the chat for this meeting just to ensure that everyone has access to it. And so, you know, if you want to tell me anonymously and have me put it in, that's fine too, or however we want to do it. But, you know, we need, you know, is it, you know, like sampling rate is the big thing. Well, I would say the minimum sampling rate is what we need to know about. And I think the thing is, the problem I see is that if we take interrupts, let's say that we're doing out of band error logging, and we take an interrupt for every single corrected memory error we see, we could just wipe the BMC out. You know, there's no way the BMC could keep up with the rate at which the host CPU could generate corrected memory errors. And because of that, we do have to fall back to sampling at some point. And I would say the sampling rate for corrected errors, and then my expectation is that we, you know, want at least the first uncorrected error. And if you all, that's, I'll just put my name by it. That's my fault. If it's wrong, you know, please tell me. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, is we have a sampling rate for corrected errors, and then we have uncorrected errors. And the uncorrected errors are kind of useful for training, right? Like we want, like we'll give you this set of data, and you'll take it, and we'll have an uncorrected error in it, and that's what when we return a part to you, if we get to an uncorrected error and you didn't predict it, what I'm dreaming of is that we would send you a series of corrected errors and an uncorrected error, and then you would take that and go, okay, was there any way I could enhance my algorithm to predict that without creating a whole bunch of false positives? So anyway, you know, we'll keep moving. I want to get to the rest of Tony's things. Please add your thoughts here, though. Okay, so we talked about ECS and gave Tony the action item to make a proposal on how we capture it.
Yeah, so I just put a few options in here, and I think any of them could work well. I do think it would be useful just to have the standard capture ECS every 24 hours, um, just as a monitor. But then collecting ECS around a failure event would also be useful, I think, for the memory vendors.
Is
I
that
think
is that possible? I was under the, so I guess what we would get is, because the ECS scrubs roughly every 24 hours. So if we collect it early, we just get a partial scrub of memory. Is that right?
that is correct. So it's going to be, it's really, I think, maybe informative to us and the industry of how useful or not useful the current version of ECS is. I think the idea when we originally were talking about ECS and JDEC was that the intent was to try and provide something that was informative and predictive, and this will be kind of help us collect the proof in the pudding,
Okay.
of whether it is or not. Uh, I, I have my own theories about how predictive it's going to be, but
Okay.
this would help us draw those correlations, and if there are uh, is something useful there, then that's something that we could build into our uh, failure analyzers to help be more predictive if it does give a signal.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So should we have a standardized configuration of ECS collection? Let me unpack what I mean by that. So ECS has a couple of different knobs that control whether you collect code words versus rows, and a couple of things along those lines that will impact the output of when you collect what you'll get. So if you're not all on the same page about what you're collecting, then like your analyzer may not be ready for what my output is. So does everybody need to standardize on one set of default settings for the collection in order for you to be able to interpret it? Or are you imagining like just having a dynamic interpreter that can take whatever ECS output that is provided?
That's a really good point. Um, I guess including those options in there, or that information of the settings that are being used, would be necessary to make it used correctly. That's a good call,
Well, you
Kevin.
have to either have standard settings, right? So
Yeah,
either standard settings or you have to record the settings.
and I'd hesitate a little bit to call out standardization of settings, but people could convince me otherwise. The only reason I say that is some memory architectures may benefit more from row counting, or some may benefit more from code word. And I wouldn't necessarily want to. I think the default is kind of probably what the standardized version is intended to be. But I wouldn't want to, if Micron came to someone and said, "Hey, we really would like you to shift over to code word counting for this design," I wouldn't want to, put something out there that would inhibit that. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, the only thing I see is if you look at it from like an end user's perspective, we're like at the point where okay, we'll do a specialized memory test for a particular memory vendor because it's built into standard CPU code. We're comfortable with things where we read something out of SPD and configure something. It would be maybe an unusual debugging situation where we otherwise customized our BIOS to collect special data for a particular DRAM vendor because it needs to be scalable, right? I don't want to have
Yeah.
to build a Micron BIOS versus a Samsung BIOS versus a Hynix BIOS. So, if we're going to change the ECS settings, I'm not opposed to it. It just has to be done we need to create a programmatic way, and then we have to have memory code, like the Intel memory reference code or AMD's AGISA, be smart enough to gather that and act programmatically.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. I guess
So,
if we want to put it out there as the standard, then I think that the default, JITX settings is what that standard would be.
okay.
But that's just kind of my take on it. If the other memory vendors have other thoughts, please jump in.
Yeah, SK Hynix is agreed to the ECS data should be standardized. Yeah, so I think there's if the make some the C log like some the for ECS data that could be helpful.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at the screen. That was SK Hynix speaking, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I was typing and I can't see who was talking. And
Yeah,
I'm
SK
sorry. Okay.
agreed with the ECS data should be the standardized, and if we the ECS data format is like a C log, then that could be very helpful for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with that. And I guess that's you know So for like, so the Dell folks, I just want to tell you one of my burning fears is that we get some creative, helpful person that wants to put something all over redfish. And there are a whole bunch of redfish variables. And then to understand what's going on in the machine, you have to go gather all this redfish stuff. And that's kind of the opposite of what we're hoping for. What I'm hoping for is that we have an event, an error is an event. The event occurs, we gather data relevant to the event, we stuff it in a CPR log. And maybe it's several related CPR logs from different things, but they're all bundled in one bundle and get sent up. And so I'm agreeing with SK Hynix strongly here that I would far rather see a bundle of CPR things than something scattered all over redfish. So if I don't know if you share that fear, but if you do share that fear, please help me caution everyone adding stuff to redfish when it comes to error handling.
What I can say right now with regards to memory is we certainly don't fully abide by all of the things that are out there already. There's some things that we don't stuff information into with regards to redfish. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm opposed to redfish in general.
No,
Just to be
no, I'm not opposed to redfish. I just don't want a million variables for a failure.
yeah, yeah. And so like in the context, at least, zooming in on what we're talking about here, like if this was to go into CPR, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. My original intent coming into the question was like, we had this high level construct of analyzers, and I just thought about it and said, oh, well, that analyzer is going to need to have a known input. So one way or another, I just happen to work on some of the ECS data on our end. So I was like, I had to set all these settings. I remember setting all these settings. So I got to make sure that I communicate that some way, somehow. Otherwise, it's just going to be, it's going to be data, but you won't know what it is. You could wholly misinterpret it just because it's not parsable.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I think we're trying to settle on CPR, and I think what we would end up doing is since the CPU vendors log the data in the memory controller, my expectation is we come up with what we want here, and then we work with the CPU vendors to build their CPRs. And so then what would happen is we gather CPR data and we either expose that in a fault log in the BMC or there are other in-band solutions for exposing those CPR logs. But that way we don't have to create it. We're asking the CPU vendor to collect all the data that they need to debug things. Okay, well, thank you. That was a good discussion. So I think we're leaning toward so now when it comes to collecting each of these, I'm okay with whatever, but we just have to log it, as needed. Does anyone or do we have any opinions on? I guess here's what I would say is it is possible to collect this ECS data every 24 hours. Because there may be some, like you have separate options here, Tony, but it may be collected on every failure event, but also collected every 24 hours because you might not
Yeah.
have had a corrected memory error that the memory controller noticed. It might have been corrected in ECS. And so the only
Yep.
way to see that it happened is ECS. Is that,
Yeah.
were you thinking that in the background?
That was kind of thinking of all three of these as try and do all of them.
Oh, okay.
But I guess the sample ECS persistent fails is kind of a subset of the just collecting it on every failure event. Like if it's unreasonable to collect it during every event, then maybe sampling should be fine there as well.
Okay, the ECS. Good. Okay, and then you're saying the persistent failures may be a subset, and I'm sorry, I'm so slow typer, of collecting on.
So Tony, when you say sample, you thinking temporally, or it could also be targeted ECS data? I'm not even sure if that is something we can pick and choose, but just thinking out loud here.
Sorry, I'm not sure I followed you, Gesh. The what do you mean by the
There's a
target?
latency aspect to it, right? So collecting ECS data takes time. And reading, so when you sample and you're sampling for certain event, and again, I'm not sure if that's even possible, but do you think it would be helpful to sample certain registers that are relevant to the event, certain mode registers?
Well, I think
For
there'll certainly be more, right? I mean,
You guys are talking about like getting a snapshot of the registers when an event happens?
yeah, so and again, I'm not up to speed on this, but if there is an aspect that, okay, if reading the full set takes more time, do you want to consider subset of registers, mode registers?
Yeah, there are specific mode registers for ECS, and it's limited to a single mode register read. So it is a subset, and I actually did call out the mode registers further down, Yogesh, if that's it. Or you definitely don't need to go do a full mode register readout and read out all of them.
so I think it's
Um,
included in these. Yeah, I
yeah,
see.
it's way down at the bottom. It's
Yeah,
MR 14 through 20.
yeah.
Yeah, so all of those, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really helpful list, Tony. This is really interesting.
So yeah, so I have kind of broke this part out below, and people may just want to read through it on your own, and feel free to please add or remove if you think things are unnecessary. And yeah, you can probably, sorry, I should have just killed that comment there, Drew. That's just my formatting. So on boot, there's some DRAM training, new to DDR5 training sequences that are maybe interesting, especially as we continue to move to higher speeds. And then going into the RCD, control and uncontrolled words. I'm sorry, unpaged control and paged controlled words. That again, kind of some training offset values that are useful. And then we have the same thing on the data buffer side down below. And then on the memory failure, I just threw this in here. I think it was called kind of out above as well, but just kind of breaking it down to the most basic level of information.
Yeah.
On a failure, including the dim temp, the DRAM ECS, like we were talking about before, and also PMIC registers, error flags, error and warning flags, I should say.
This is awesome. Yeah. Oh, and I guess I'm sorry. And then channel information. Yeah, and the channel information, I kind of view that as a like when you talk about, where was it? I'm sorry, I'm scrolling here. It would be, for me, the channel. Channel starts here, but
Yeah, good call. Yes, I did leave that out. That's good point.
if it's okay, it's channel, comma, rank.
Yep.
Right, and I know, like, if you're looking at it from a DRAM vendor perspective, you're looking inside the array maybe a bit more, but We want to know what DIM to replace, so we need to know the channel and rank. So I'll delete it down here if that's okay, because we've got it up above now. Is that okay? Okay. Sounds good. Oh, and I see. You also did the sample rate. I'm sorry. Or was this already here?
That was already there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I added that one in.
Okay. Well, we're going to run short on time. Like this looks very good to me. I'm pretty enthusiastic about your list, Tony, but I'm not as educated on what all these. I barely know what some of these registers are. So I guess maybe for next week, could we request that SK Hynix and Samsung take a look at this list and uh, give us feedback?
Okay, I see.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And Jordan, you're okay too? I take it then. So. Okay. Well, thank you. That's awesome. So that'll work out great. Tony, was there anything else in the document that you wanted to cover today?
No, those were the things we got in there over the last week. So
Okay. And I apologize for the vast scrolling. I know it doesn't always look good. Okay. Well, thank you. This is awesome. I'm excited to see this. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go back to my team and say, hey, let's start looking at how we log this stuff. So,
perfect.
Yep, that's great. Thank you. Hey, real quick, Kevin, last week or last time rather, you were asking for access. Did you get the access to this document? Is there anyone else that needs access and has any comments after the access?
I have access to it now. Thank you.
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
Drew, you share the link, but you can request access from that doc if you don't have it.
yeah, like if you click the link and you don't have access, you can request it and we'll give it to you. And as always, we treasure your help here. So please feel free to jump in like Tony did and type comments and suggestions. It's very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to have comments in the document ahead, so everyone gets time to digest and think about those. I did not do that today, but it's really good, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Okay, well, I think you suggested stopping a few minutes early to get off the bridge before the next OCP call, because so for the folks that don't know, OCP shares kind of the same conference call IDs across a whole bunch of meetings. So we need to get out so we're out of their way. But thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate your help, and Tony, we especially appreciate the work you put into this.
Drew, would you be joining the next call? Sorry, folks. I think.
No, I don't usually attend it. I've got some other fires I'm putting out. Do I need to?
No, I can give an update on the RAS API. That's okay. If you
Okay.
cannot join, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You can IM me if you need me to jump in and say anything.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.